If you had asked me, would you build an Aramex today, I'd tell you I'm not interested in that space.
Oh, wow.
It's a different...
because the market need is not as strong.
Different world.
Of course.
Different world.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So the sense of purpose. I mean, okay. So listening to you now,
right.
I can see that everything has to be driven by a sense of purpose, but then augmented with luck, and then seizing that opportunity is what makes the good formula, isn't it?
I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, right? So entrepreneurs, by definition, are in the business of seizing opportunities all the time. All the time.
At what age, if I ask you, at this point in time? In your time, you were young. How old were you? Were you 25?
In those days? No, I was
when you started
23.
23, yeah. So at what age now? Because there's a lot, like, what's your advice to people who are, let's say, at university now?
Look, 2 or 3 things that you can do. And you can join a startup. I mean, you can join a startup. There's a massive amount of learning in startups. Why? Because you experience building. You experience building from scratch. You experience failure. And that's where you learn. Failure is the most important platform for learning. And so in startups, there's a lot of failures and a lot of pivots and a lot of early stage team building, understanding how to work with colleagues. Taking advantage of your skills, and you feel that your skills are making a difference in a startup because it's small, right? So there's a lot of excitement, and if you failed in that startup, either join or start a business. You're still young, and what you've learned from that failure, you can go for seconds, you can go for thirds. Your life is way ahead of. There's so much more to do. So if you fail very early, you're the lucky one because you get to do it again. You can also go work for a corporate. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You need to work with a corporate that is going to take advantage of what you do, so that you also feel that your skill set is being used, and you are also learning, because you are in the business of building your own capabilities all your life. So if you want to be a corporate person, you'd better go to a corporate that builds your capabilities so that when you move on, you've learned a whole bunch, so that you can become relevant for the next thing you want to do and the next thing you want to do. Or you can be a founder. You can work for your family business. I mean, there is plenty of opportunities. Yeah.
So if you have a son,
I have 2 of them.
But if you have a son now who's, mashallah, Allah khair
thank you.
If you have a son who is now just about to start his professional or her professional career, which one of these 3? So founding your own, joining a corporate, joining a startup.
If in today's world, I tell them to go join a startup.
Join a startup. Yeah. Okay. Because this is where the actual grind is.
World, you can join an early stage startup. You can join a scale up also. I mean, business that's a bit less de-risked in a later stage. Yeah. But that's where things are happening. That's where disruption is happening. That's where change is happening. That's where you are going to be moving fast, changing fast, learning fast, failing fast, redirecting yourself fast. I mean, the world is moving in an exponential change process, constant exponential change. I mean, look at what ChatGPT did overnight.
True.
Right? From you conceptually talking about AI to you experiencing AI immediately, and then experiencing it exponentially to the next level every time they bring out a new version. Think of that when you are in a startup, and that's where things are happening. Corporates, with all due respect, are slow to react. Exponential change gets them confused, unless they're really very entrenched and the regulator keeps them going, right? So there's protection. I can talk about a few industries that will get upset with me. For instance, the banking industry.
Yes.
The regulator protects them so much so that these startups take a much longer process to disrupt them. But they know they're going to get disrupted. And so they'll throw a lot of money about doing a lot of things. But they're still slow big, risk averse, it's very difficult for them to adopt and accept new technologies or even interact with these startups that says, come, I want to learn from you. I mean, there's enough arrogance in corporates that they don't think that they can learn from startups. And that's why you see a lot of disruption. So I would, back to your question, go to the riskiest place. And
riskiest.
That's where and the riskiest places are startups, scale-ups.
I like that.
And that's where you're going to learn. And that is where I'm going back to failure, because really failing, pivoting, redirecting is a critical element in learning.
We don't like to fail. Our culture. We're very sensitive.
I am, look, I've given this a lot of thought over my life, because I've always been told we don't like to fail. I don't buy that story.
Okay.
I don't like that story. No, people in general don't like to fail, not only in our culture. I mean, you think if you sit with an American who's built his life around a culture that is, fail and re-emerge, this is what they tell you. Do you think this guy that failed was happy? No, he's not happy, but he learned that I will re-emerge. Right, so that's the critical element. I think this generation that is coming out is much more aware, much more in tune with trying. And there's something that I've observed. I think this is a global issue: is that the young generation doesn't want to stick around too long in any place. So they'll come and work 2, 3 years, 4 years, and move on. And their definition of failure is different than my definition of failure, maybe. And meaning. They are so agile, they'll move on very quickly to the next level. I don't think any culture is really in love with failure.
As it should be.
But I mean, it's not easy, right? I mean, it's counterintuitive for you to think that failure is something to celebrate, unless you've gotten older in life and wiser, and wiser, and then you understand that failure is
delayed gratification.
But early on people will. I've seen a lot of guys that have built businesses, failed, and went on and either became CEOs of other startups and have rebuilt businesses. And there was pain in the beginning, and then you wake up one day and say, what am I going to do next? I've built so much incredible experience. I'll tell you something. Any corporate or let me talk about myself. If I was going to hire somebody to work with me, I would let's say between somebody that worked in a corporate, superb guy, right, or lady, and somebody that has built a business and failed, I'd always.
You'd go for the one who failed in building a business.
Without no.
Do you have a story? Do you have someone who did that and he actually hired?
Do I have a story? Yeah, I mean, I get more excited about talking to people that have built businesses.
What's the trait? Like practical trait? Like we know failure, but what's the trait that excites you?
These people have sweated, didn't sleep at night.
I'm glad I didn't wear my suit today.
Yes, I mean it's a different experience altogether.
But what is it that they have?
But it's character also. I mean, it's not that I passed through this business, it failed, and I'm no. What did you do there? How did you fail? What did you learn from that failure? What do you think you're gonna use from that experience so that you can go to the next level? Will you be part? Because I'm an investor now. So if you've been part of a business that failed, I want you to come and help me when I am diligencing some of the companies that I want you to bring that set of experience that you have and tell me what are you seeing in this next startup that you've seen in yours. I mean, entrepreneurs will understand entrepreneurs much better than people that did not go through the process of entrepreneurship.
100%. It's like parenting, right? You will never understand.
I mean, when people pitch for me, because we're early stage investors, so.
WAMDA is an early stage investor.
Yeah, we're early stage.
Like pre-seed, seed?
Seed, Series A.
Okay.
So the entrepreneur is critical
So the one that
to the process. So it's not what only he's building, but him as or her
as a character,
as an individual. Who are they? What have they done? And what have they gone through?
So when you sit with someone who did it, failed, and came again, and is doing it and pitching to you, what do you see, practically speaking? What do you feel, let's say?
I see humility and wisdom.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you don't see arrogance and know it all.
Because exactly, it's the opposite. Failure is grounds you.
So I'll tell you my personal.
Grounds you.
Let me tell you my personal experience, Fadi. I've been trying to get people on this podcast for almost close to a year.
Right.
If you go now, and I've had 15 by this time. I don't know when this will be published, but this time I have 15, 16 episodes with 15, 16. If you go at them, you'll see all of them are corporates. Right? Corporate leaders, CEOs, leaders of big, massive regions. Simply because in my list, I had most of the entrepreneurs, but most of them either, and this is true story, either said, oh no, you have a small platform, or they actually wanted to get paid. So this is my personal experience.
Entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Wanted to get paid.
Yeah, so actually they said, how much? How much
Very
are you paying? So this is my personal experience. And me and my, Linda reached out to you and you were gracious enough to kind of entertain us, which is, to me, I label you as the godfather of entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
But the case being made
I didn't ask you for money, just to be sure, right?
Well, let's keep it a secret. I'm not going to disclose, and we have an NDA. But no, the point that I'm trying to make is, there is and by the way, I heard it from a couple of other non-entrepreneurs that there is an element of elitism in the world of entrepreneurs. That, by the way, now I'm shifting to being an entrepreneur. I'm starting now. Elitism in the sense of like an academic is an elitist as well, because they've done things, so they see themselves as a circle. Is this something you've noticed?
Those who do that are not going to make it, in my view. There's no elitism in it. I mean, there's a sexiness in it, and and we've over glorified it.
Yes,
we've over glorified it. But entrepreneurship and building a business is hard work. It causes misery. It disrupts your life. It eats your time. It takes away from so many things you're interested in. If you're married, your marriage will have to have long dialogues with your partner on how you want to conduct your life. You're managing people. That's a painful process. You're building products. You are selling to clients. You need to meet your cash flow needs at the end of the month. Those that understand this and do it seriously are there's a lot of humility in them. They're builders.
Yeah.
But if somebody says, how much do you want to pay me for doing a podcast? I mean, it's like a bit ridiculous. I mean, going overboard. If there is a sense of arrogance, I find that silly, if you want. I mean, I didn't ask you about how big your platform is.
You have never. So, okay, for the record, obviously, we reached out to you. You immediately accepted. We had a Zoom call.
What I cared about is the quality of the people that you interviewed. I mean,
but you didn't even ask about that, just for the record, right? So probably you've done your own.
I did my own thing. But
No,
I'm good. Okay. And because it's slipping. What I care about when I'm doing a podcast, and that's why I think long and hard about where I do my podcast, is that I'm engaged with serious questions that the audience will find interest in. Oh. I don't want to do fluff. I don't want to do hoopla stuff. And and I'll tell you, I'm not going to be posting this anywhere on my own platforms. I don't want to self-promote. I don't want to do stuff. I mean, and whoever is interested to hear whatever I have to say. Ahlan wa sahlan, I'm available in there.
And that's the humility that
no,
people
and
should get.
I'm comfortable with it. I might have a while back wanted to do promotion because I was needed. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, right? To be fair, I mean, there's nothing wrong with people saying, "Here's my interview, please watch it." But I'm doing it because you are building a platform. You have an audience. You wanna engage certain serious people in the discussions, and I'm happy to be part of that discussion. I think I have something to say that might be relevant to whoever is going to be listening or watching.
Agreed, and that's the intention as well, Fadi. So let's shift gears to understanding the current state of entrepreneurship in our region. Now, this is for our region, and when I say our region, I mean the block of land, which is the GCC, Jordan, Lebanon, Egypt,
the Arab world.
The Arab world, exactly.
Yes.
So, what's the state of innovation now, from your point of view, currently?
I think it's moving very positively, in my view. There are 4 or 5 elements that are essential for ecosystems to be built. So one, ecosystems between, because you can't have innovation without the complete ecosystem. So one, you need the talent.
Yes.
Right? I mean, talent,
100%.
not only entrepreneurs, but people to hire, to build the business, right? To build the startup. So you need talent. And talent comes in 2 ways. Either universities produces talent, or you have an open immigration system that allows talent to come and work in your city. Dubai is the ultimate story. Jordan has a lot of talent in country.
From universities.
Yes. Lebanon, despite its political, is an exporter of talent.
Absolutely, not user.
But it also still produces talent. Egypt has massive amounts of talent, has universities, etc. So talent is critical. Number 2, access to markets. Our markets are supremely fragmented. Most markets in the world, Osama, are fragmented. So people talk about where is the next Silicon Valley. The next Silicon Valley is where there's markets. Silicon Valley sits in the United States of America, the largest economy in the world.
The buying power is
without that, there is no Silicon Valley. Right? Critical markets. And so even Europe today, Draghi, who used to be the European Commissioner, produced a report last week on the state of innovation in Europe. And he was scathing, saying there is no way that we are going to be able to compete with China and the United States, the 2 markets of size in the world, single markets of size in the world. Because we live in Europe, even though there's an EU that still has bureaucracy, still has a very cumbersome regulatory environment and a fragmented market. Imagine, what am I going to tell you about our own markets, right? So, and Mario Draghi is a report that needs to be read by every single politician in our region, every single regulator in our region, and everybody that cares about our region in terms of its competitiveness, by understanding what needs to be done to be competitive. So, fresh out of the press, must read. And he talks about $700 billion a year of investments to be able to get $700 billion.
In Europe?
Yes, in Europe, so that you're able to try to catch up to China and the United States of America.
Just as a comparison, what's our region's investment?
No, I've never seen this is about R&D, right? So mostly R&D to produce.
We'll talk about that.
Produce knowledge, produce science that is commercializable, that can influence people's lives, right?
We'll talk about. So we said talent and market.
Talent, markets, and capital. Right, capital. You need to pump in a lot of money in this ecosystem for startups. I'll give you one more, and ease of doing business.
Okay.
So regulatory environment.
Yes.
I want to come to a city. I want to come to a country that is plug and play.
There's no friction.
And now, right? So I don't want, nobody's waiting, right? Talent, if it comes to a place where it says, okay, I'm still fixing this problem, please wait for me until I'm able to fix them as a city. People are mobile, will pack their bags and move. Talent is here as your brain, right? And that's super mobile. There's the infrastructure of knowledge is in your brain and in a laptop, right? Because it all sits on the cloud also.
It's funny you're mentioning this. I have a friend of mine who I just interviewed here on this platform. And he actually is a Series B startup.
Right.
He actually is moving to the States because of the limitations of exactly what you mentioned.
Some people move. I mean, our history you're talking about the Arab world. Our history is about our talent going to study in the West and never coming back.
Never come back.
Why?
This talent leak.
Why? Right? Serious scientific, deep knowledge talent. Mm-hmm. Why don't they come back? People claim they don't come back because the region is unstable. No, part of it maybe, but the most important story is when you go to the United States of America and you are a person, you're a doctor, you are an engineer, you are a software developer, you are a data scientist, and you are very ambitious. The platforms you find over there to use your capabilities and for you to use your capabilities so that you become, you're building a business or building a company.
Growth.
Not only growth, the platforms are there. When you study at a university and you want to earn your PhD, the research universities in the US specifically are all over the place. So you can't come back here because there is
nothing to come back to. So let's
in
start
that level, in education, there you can't come back. You say, I did my undergrad, I want to come back and do my. Nobody comes back from the West to do his PhD here.
True.
They do their PhDs there, and once you've done that, once you've become the scientist that you are, or the data scientist that you are, or the doctor that you are, or the innovator that you are, and you're sitting in the United States of America, the land that was built around change and innovation, you think you leave?
So
So that's what I'm talking about, talent. So as we generate new talent coming out of the region, we need to make sure, how do you retain them here? Or how do you re-attract them here, right? So, and that requires a lot of thinking about, again, access to markets and access to capital and building really world-class education institutions that is going to be able to keep the talent here because they think that this is where their skills and capabilities are being utilized.
So if you're sitting now with the president of one of our universities, anywhere in our region, what's the one priority that you think they should focus on right now?
I think building research universities is essential. I think in all practice, specifically in technology, specifically in tech, I think they need to think long and hard about how they connect to the private sector so that there is this symbiosis between private sector and universities. So
industry, academia,
it's essential. It rarely exists in our region. There is an aversion to engaging with the private sector.
Yes. Let me tell you
and let me finish my thought just for a second. And just to be a bit controversial, people that run the universities don't understand what happens outside the campuses. Life is outside the campus. It's not inside the campus. How you influence the world is outside the campus. So if you don't bring the outside into the campus or bring the campus into the outside so that you are able to practically get your students to have experiential learning, tinkering, doing stuff, Internship. Northeastern University is very famous for having a 5-year program for their undergraduate, because 1 year you must go out. It's called co-op and work. You must work to graduate. So they have this network of
industry,
of partnerships with industry, so that these students can go and find internship opportunities. Because that's how you really complete your. Because when you're 20 to 24 years old studying in a university, you're only reading books, right? Or you're spending your time in labs. In the West, specifically in the United States of America, there is so much integration between outside 100%. Campus and inside campus. That is non-existent here. And that is a requirement, in my view. A requirement. I've been saying this for 30 years now.
Yes,
I haven't seen it. There is an aversion to it. They don't like the private sector. And there is no knowledge of the private sector. So you end up in business schools, for instance, Osama, and I'll let you come to your question.
Yeah.
In business schools here in the region, they study, their case studies are about Western companies.
100%.
They don't have the budget. There is no interest in going out and doing case studies about the companies that succeeded here.
Yes.
So you will find a case study on Kareem in Harvard.
Yes.
Do you think any of the universities here will do a case study on Kareem?
Why?
Or on Aramex, or on Nuqul, or on Fine, or on Souk? There is tens and tens and tens.
Why is that, Fadi?
Because there's no interest.
Why is no interest?
Because the professors sit inside campus. They don't sit outside the campus. They wait for knowledge to come to them. I'm pretty sure people are going to criticize me for saying this. I don't see... Look, I'll tell you. Let me tell you a story about Aramex and where this is a difference.
Yeah,
Aramex hires and hired over the years many industrial engineers.
Right, industrial.
In the operations management. We are in the business of perfecting operations, and the operations people are industrial engineers.
True.
Jordan University has one of the best and maybe the earliest industrial engineering schools in the region.
Okay.
We hired massive amounts of these kids. You know why? Because at that time, the dean of the school came to us and partnered with us and said, I have an industrial engineering school. I want my kids to come and do projects in Aramex while they're studying. We were their research lab. So a lot of industrial engineers would come and do their projects in Aramex. And what happens when they graduate? Where do they apply?
True.
They come back and apply to Aramex. And once you hire 1, 2, 3, word of mouth becomes Aramex is the place to do. So that partnership
becomes produced a talent magnet.
Leaders in the logistics industry through the Aramex platform, because there was that partnership. It's a simple example.
What made him do that?
He's just thinking that way. He's an MIT graduate. He eventually became Minister of Education in Jordan. But he he had a culture inside that you learn the theory here, you go practice it outside.
You cannot learn swimming from books.
No, you learn swimming by jumping. Reid Hoffman has a very famous saying that says, entrepreneurs are in the business of jumping off a cliff and building the wings to fly while they're falling.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
That's risk, and that's moving fast, acting fast,
out of those
fast.
4, talent. So let's kind of dig deep. I want to really dig deep into that. So I have professors, friends, I have academics, I have really presidents of universities. And I had one very deep discussion with one of my friends who is a president of a university. And I asked him about this, and he said, oh, wow, they don't understand our value. That was his demeanor, that was his posture. So the president of the university says that industry does not understand the value of academia. So my response to him was, the responsibility is on you to show value, because they are for profit.
We are recruiting his people. It's not we don't understand his value. We know his people more than he does, because we're the ones that are assessing their talents when we hire them. We see the end product. We are the buyers of that product. So if they have that mentality of saying, I am producing knowledge and people with knowledge so that they can go out and become productive in society and earn a living. I mean, why do you want to go spend $200,000 in Western universities to earn a degree, Osama? Why? I mean, that's an investment.
True.
Right? You're spending a lot of money. True. If you're not going to take that knowledge that you have and go out and work and earn a living, why do it? Why do it? I mean, there's a big question about universities' relevance now. Right now that we're talking about relevance, meaning a lot of the people can learn everything they want to learn online today. Right? Most of the things they want to learn are gonna learn online, and I know they're gonna kill me now because I'm saying these things. But you'd better be better than what's available online, because if I'm a curious person, I want to learn coding. You think I won't learn coding online? Yeah. The only place I'm gonna learn coding actually is online, and so the universities need to understand that the minute these kids are graduating, and that's only 4 years of their life, the next 30 years of their life, 40 years of their life is going to be outside campus. What have you produced so that they can actually have the base to have that next 40 years? And they're going to learn much more than they learned at the university. But the initial wave comes to us if we hire new graduates. We're going to be doing a lot of training and retraining, and we have a responsibility also. So I'm not saying private sector does not have a responsibility, but there needs to be a symbiotic discussion, very deep discussion, strategic discussion between universities and the private sector and the public sector, for that matter, because most of our universities are owned by the public sector.
As it should be. It should be, yeah.
So if you want to hire for the public sector, you'd better have a discussion between universities and the public sector, so they're going to hire your people. If you want to hire, if you want people to go and work to the private sector, there needs to be a strategic discussion before the graduation. When you put your curriculum, when you put your strategic plan for the university. I was part of a university at a certain time, not going to mention it now. And a new president came out and wanted to do his inaugural speech. And he told us, here's what I'm going to be talking about. What do you think? I asked a question. I said, and this is a while back, before the pandemic required us to have online. I said, are you going to be discussing how we're going to have our courses available online learning? He says, I don't have time for that. Oh, right? I mean, what kind of an answer is that? And so I know lots of universities. I mean, there's a new university coming out in Dubai, National University of Dubai, which I am honored to be part of now. And the discussion, the very early discussion around it is, how do you actually produce talent for the future? Talent for the future. This city is a city that has deep discussion between the private sector and the public sector about what is required to attract talent and keep talent here and to build the future businesses out of here. It's essential. It's essential. You feel it. They're going out of their way. You feel it in the GCC in general. You feel it in Saudi Arabia. You feel it in many countries today. You feel it in Jordan also. But again, talent without markets is very
we'll
difficult.
talk about markets, because I love the way you've just separated, those four elements. And when it comes to talent, there's this talent production, which is the people that are graduating and how relevant their knowledge is. But also you have the industry-academia relationship at an R&D level. Right. So let's say industry coming to university and contracting them to do, research on batteries or research like Tesla is doing, like Google is doing, like Amazon is doing.
Yes.
Is that existent? Like, do you think that the private sector...
I might be out of touch today, but I don't see it. I mean, so I don't see it. I'd be very curious.
I've done my research, and obviously we rank in the 202 and below when it comes to that worldwide.
From a research and
from a collaboration perspective, this is one. Second, from a research output that then goes into being, let's say, an innovation that can be then productized and sold. That's also we're ranking really behind. So this is quantitative analysis. It's not even qualitative, right?
This proves my point.
Yeah.
Proves my point. I haven't seen it.
But is it the culture? Is it the politics? Is it the governance?
It's the culture.
Is it
culture, not of the Arab culture? It's the culture of the universities. They're very protective, and they don't trust outside campus, and they don't trust the private sector.
What do you mean?
They don't trust. There's no. We live in two different worlds.
Right.
Two different worlds. One is a world, so back to the original story. One is the world of tinkering and failing and tinkering and doing stuff. And one that expects excellence. I want you to be an A student.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Does that rhyme?
How boring.
Well, that's what, does that rhyme with my...
Which means if I memorize the book, I'm going to be an A student.
Yeah.
But did I learn anything? That's the question. I don't know. I might have, I might not have not, but I did. I have incredible memory. And I was able to memorize, and I aced because I learned how to memorize. But what have I learned? What do I do with that knowledge?
Yes.
After 5 days, because you do the test,
yes,
and then after the test happens, what happens? I mean, reading books. Take reading books. You read a book, you love it.
Sure.
You are immersed in it for days and days and days, and the week after you've read it, you continuously. I'll ask you about the book 2 months later. What happens?
100%.
You're gonna tell me, the book is about love and the murder or whatever, but and then slowly it will go away. But you'll have that general piece. Same thing in schools. I mean, what do you remember about your school days other than the fun that you had with your friends? And the some brilliant teachers that you will remember, and some super boring teachers that put you to sleep in class, right? But what do you remember? What else do you remember?
And some painful spanking.
And the spanking, and you will remember pain.
Yes.
You will remember pain
because I didn't know too much.
You remember naughtiness.
Yes.
You and your friends that did naughty things, but. I'm not saying that there's perfection out there. I mean, I think most of the schools in the world, I think the education system in general in the world is challenged.
But you talked about culture. And this is,
culture of
the university. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say. So there is the culture of the university, which is obviously there is a resemblance, not resemblance. It borrows from the culture of, let's say, the macro culture of the surrounding. I'll tell you a small example. And this is, again, my theory, and this is sort of not findings, but further research from my own research, right? Which is, we have a fear of confrontation as a nation, right? We hate to confront. That's why we don't say no, we say inshallah. That's why I always, anyone who followed me for any period of time knows that I always kind of pick on the inshallah culture, which means no, practically speaking, but I don't want to say no because I don't want to confront you.
Talk to me later.
Talk to me, exactly. Like, let me see. And I was hit by it a lot because every time someone says inshallah, I thought that, that's because I was raised, obviously, my father is a bit religious. And so for me, inshallah means absolutely yes, unless God forbids, which is if I died, if something happened, right? But otherwise, it's absolutely yes. So I was having that culture shock when I kind of came into the professional world, and especially in this part of the world, our part of the world, right? So that's one thing. We have extreme respect for authority in a good way, in a father figure way, but in a non-questionable way. So you have all of the yes
society.
Yes. So you have all of the yes people around you, right? Which creates a false sense of success, I would say, because you don't get the people who will give you, let's say, negative feedback, which then grows. And then you have the fear of failure because everybody wants to be a doctor and engineer. And you know how this is a stigma around our...
Not only that, in a hierarchical society and the patriarchal society, you don't want to take a decision.
Yes, that's the thing.
Because the boss did. So my dad did. My mom did. So my elder brother did. My elder sister did. And so it trickles down. I mean, that's a culture that the patriarchal one, meaning submission.
Willingly, happily, lovingly.
Yeah, that's how it is.
You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
There's
Lovingly.
nothing wrong with it. But I'll tell you how
Yes.
I've tackled it in Aramex. So we created a culture of rebels inside the organization. It was not easy. It was not easy. Because a lot of the people that we had a good mixture of people in Aramex. We had people that studied in the West and came back and wanted to stay and work, and we were an attractor of talent. We recruited lots of new graduates in the organization because we are a startup. We recruited a lot of people from local universities. The people from the local universities did not like to take decisions, were not trained to take decisions.
Oh, wow. Was it obvious?
Absolutely obvious. And so when you create a culture of flatness,
it's powerful. Yeah.
When you create a very flat culture, meaning
monotone.
You take the decision.
Yes, yes.
I'm not going to punish you for failure. I'm not going to punish you if you take the wrong decision, but you have to take the decision. Right? And that's how you're going to learn. And that's how and that's how the organization is. It's not hierarchical. It's not pyramidal. We're as flat as possible. Everybody talks to everybody. Everybody solves immediately and solves fast because we're in the business of fast deliveries.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people eventually, I mean, we changed it because we were brutal about our culture. We wanted it to be a culture of flatness. Not only in leadership. We wanted to tell the guy that delivers the package, because he's the person, or she is the person that actually touches the client, right? If the client asks that guy who delivers the package a question,
you need to know about it.
I want him to be able to answer.
Right.
So how do you empower a person that thinks, I'm only a driver that's delivering a package? Is he going to be able to say, okay, I might be able to solve your problem. I'll get back to you. Or this thing happened because 1, 2, 3. And that's before the internet.
Yes.
Right? And so...
how did you do it? I mean, I heard one of your...
It took...
But how did... I mean, what I'm trying to say is...
It took 10, 15 years to get there.
But I can see now startups who are now venturing into the 20, 30, 40 employees. And it's like, I can't. Like the flatness of the organization is just...
We ran a 20,000 people.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So how?
Super flat. It was completely decentralized organization. Everything was
local. You called it
local.
federations, I think? Yeah, how did you do it?
It was all local.
Can you explain it?
A federation means power resides at the front line. It doesn't really reside in the center. You know, in Aramex, I hope they still have it today, we don't have anything called corporate headquarters, because the word of head means there's a head. But even if there's a head psychologically, I don't want you to think of the head. It's the corporate office of Aramex was called Global Service Office, GSO.
So you were particular about the naming, so you can can implant that mindset in people's...
And I would go to the people in the GSO who was supposed to be the headquarters of
What's
the company.
GSO?
Global Service Office.
Oh, okay.
And I'd say you are here to serve the people on the front line where our revenue comes from, where our clients are. Don't think you're smarter than them, because there's always this friction between the center,
corporate,
and the people that are outside of the center.
Yes,
always competition. Always, I know better. Leave me alone. I want to take my local decisions. My client is here. I want to solve my client. It's taking a lot of time for you to come back to me. I want to be able to solve immediately on the ground when the issue happens, when the challenge happens, when the problem happens. I want to solve locally. And the people at the center, no, don't do that, because there is a way, a system. And when you create an entrepreneurial organization, you are completely flattening it. Meaning, you're an entrepreneur, you're Fadi Ghandour on the front line, go solve. Come back and report later. But I want you to be able to solve right now. So local managers of Aramex were called CEOs. You're the CEO of the UAE. You're the CEO of Egypt. You're a CEO. What does that mean? CEO means you have most of the power. You hire, you fire, and you solve all your problems locally. The center's job is to give you size capabilities. You're local when it comes to the client. You're small when it comes to the client, because I want you to be small and agile and solve immediately, because you need to do that right now, because we don't have time to go back for decision making somewhere else, because you're going to lose that business because nobody's waiting for you, right?
Yes.
But I want you to also feel the power of the brand, the power of the collective buying. Aramex is a global company that gives you support locally, but your decision making is there. My job is to build your global capability so that you can tap to it to solve your local problems. So that's the federation. The federation means Aramex in Egypt is independent practically. They put their own budget, they put their own profitability, P&L, and where they want to spend, how they want to hire, who they want to hire. There's a standard of who we hire. I mean, we will send them that manual, but we'll also allow them to deviate from it if there is local conditions requires.
And explicitly tell them that you are allowed to deviate.
We've shoved it down their throat. We shoved it down their throat. And you tell me how I did that. I was a preacher of culture along with my team. You know, I have a brilliant bunch of people. Osama Fattali, at that time Hazem Malhas, Iyad Kamal, Safwan Tanir, Uthman Al-Jadda, the current CEO of Aramex today. I mean, Uthman has been with Aramex for 30 years. He was born in Aramex. Born in Aramex, never left Aramex. Right? So these people grew up and around a culture that is an empowering culture. Why? So part of the reason why is I needed to be faster than my bigger competitors. So some of the big competitors, if not all of them, would kill to have the Aramex culture. But because the Aramex culture was built from day one like that,
yes.
So I didn't have to go back and say I have a legacy.
Yes.
The big corporates, very hierarchical, very slow, hiring employees rather than hiring hustlers, runners. You know, in Aramex's days, Aramex's people needed to prove who Aramex is. So their skill set had to be very high and they had to be very motivated to sell a company that was not known. Not known. Not a brand. We were building the brand by word of mouth, going out and selling, not advertising. You know, Aramex never advertised.
You didn't have
never.
You didn't have Meta?
In its life, Aramex did not advertise.
You didn't have Facebook?
I did. Facebook was our salespeople were our Facebook. Face to face, knocking on doors, running the streets, getting rejected, and selling a company that says, we are Aramex. What do you do? We're like DHL, but we're a bit cheaper. So please use our services. And say, why do I need to use our services? Because, you know, we're less expensive. You couldn't claim that you are faster than DHL, right? I mean, that's a tall order in the very early days. And so we built an organization around small companies that cared about price. So you're going to delay it, you're going to deliver not in 24 hours, in 48 hours, but you're a bit less expensive. I can manage that. Here's my package. And we built a whole niche for a long period of time around small and medium-sized enterprises that care. And DHL did not care. You know what DHL at that time used to do? Oh, you're using Aramex, you're going to regret it because you're going to come back to me. We're the Rolls-Royce service and they're the VW service, right? And VW lasts forever. Right? And so we said, okay, they want to ignore that segment, and 99% of businesses in this region are small and medium-sized enterprises. So let's focus on these guys that don't give me 1,000 packages a month, but give me one package a day, or 2 packages a day, or 5 packages a week, and I'm going to live off of them. I'm going to be a bit less expensive than DHL, and that's my niche. But back to your question, who are these people that are selling? These are people that are empowered to actually close the deal. I'm knocking on the door and the client says, I'll give you this business if you give me, if you lock this price and you're going to give me this type of service. And the guy says, done. That's empowerment. That's frontline empowerment. that is a decentralized organization. That is an organization that wants to move fast and wants to take decisions fast and then fix the problems later. Meaning, if I sold the client that loses money, I'm gonna absorb it and say, you sold the client that loses money. Your next client needs to make money, and so on.
It's a learning in motion.
I'm just putting a story of 30, 40 years now in a few minutes. But that's what we did. We called it a federation on purpose. We called it the Aramex Federation on purpose because we did not want people to think that there is somebody in the center that is smarter. So if an Aramex CEO comes and asks me from one of the countries, we're in 70, 80 countries, asks me questions. If it's general question about the global, what is happening globally with the organization, fine. If he asks me a local question, I'd say, I am the one that needs to learn from you, not you asking me questions. If you want a bit of my wisdom, of my experience, I'll give it to you, but you go solve your own problems. And that's why, Osama, you have a heck of a lot of Aramex entrepreneurs that graduated from Aramex and have built hundreds of businesses outside of Aramex. Because they did not come in as employees. They came in as employees that became entrepreneurs.
What was your biggest challenge following this model?
The biggest challenge in following this model is getting people that are amenable to actually be part of that model. Because it takes two to tango, right? I had that vision, but that vision is not top down. So Fadi has this vision and it's a policy, it's written. They need to live it. They need to believe it. They need to feel its power. They need to feel its influence. They need to feel that it actually makes a difference in their life to manage the company and as the perfect model, as the model to do. And so there was a lot of dialogue between me and the people. There's a lot of pushback. I mean,
from the people.
Pushback questions, serious questions, deep questions about the model. So the model was preached all the time by me and by others in the organization. But there was also a lot of people that would ask questions and a lot of people that are rebels and did things that I did not know about because they wanted to solve a local problem. And I would, I can't tell you that I was celebrating with them saying, I'd get upset. I said, what the heck are you doing? Right? Why did you do that? And the answer would be, well, the GSO did not respond to me. I needed to solve my problem. I solved my own problem. I brought my own software company and built this little software that solves my problem. We'll fight and they will win. You know why? Because it solved their local problem. I couldn't answer that question. So I wouldn't tell them, kill it. I'd say, am I going to be able to learn from what you did locally with other Aramex operations? There was a lot of flexibility inside Aramex. Now, the bigger it becomes, the more difficult it is to keep that.
Naturally.
And that worries me always about, the big corporates lose their sense of smallness.
Yes.
And the culture of relevance inside the organization. So people become employees rather than people that are feeling that they're making a difference on the ground.
What about fragmentation and integration? Was that a problem?
Absolutely not.
If every region will have their own decision to pick up a software or pick up this or pick up that, how is the Aramex experience across?
It was not that loose because it also pushed the people in the center because our corporate software development was centralized because we needed to have a unified system, right? So that all the company sits on top of it. That also put pressure on people in the center to actually deliver fast for the people there. So there was the friction of positive competition. Move fast, solve the problem. People need that service. There's always that competition also and that sense of, and if we want to talk tech, the software engineers always think that they are smarter than the business people in any organization. And say, what do you understand? I am doing this. But there was always that very, very heated dialogue, but a serious dialogue about how does the software solve the problem of the business. And that entrepreneurial life of the local CEOs put pressure on the people that are building the software. You either solve it or I'm going to find a local problem, a local solution here. And there's massive amounts of dynamism in keeping the organization nimble, not hierarchical, and able to take decisions very quickly. Very essential.
So if
that's how you recruit fantastic people.
Yes. This is how you attract and retain them.
I'll tell you. Aramex had the reputation for a long period of time that if you recruit an Aramex person, if you take an Aramex person,
I know this. Yeah.
People say, well, he's an Aramex graduate.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy is a different creature altogether, or girl. So I keep saying guy. So there's a lot of Aramex women that went out and did incredible things.
I know a couple. And they know that I'm meeting you, so they just... Yeah. But the point... Okay, so if I ask you now to describe Aramex's culture as you know it in one word, what would that be?
Empowering.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the word.
So there's no control in the...
There's control, but control, I mean, what does control mean? I mean, it's control for what?
Central authority.
No, I mean, I was present, but I was in the service of the organization.
It was collaborative partnership.
The organization, I existed to serve the organization, not the organization to serve me. I didn't think I had all the knowledge. I knew I did not have all the knowledge, and I knew I needed to have people who are hustlers to solve locally for their own problems. I knew I needed to hire talent that felt that they're inside an organization building something beautiful. And if you talk to the Aramex veterans, there's many of them, they'll tell you about the beauty of the first 20 years of building. I mean, when after you raise money, a lot of money, you become rich, it's $1 billion business, 20,000 people, there is a sense of malaise sometimes, comfort. You know, we're there. Aramex is a juggernaut. Whatever happens in the world, Aramex is there. Right? It will continue to be there. It's 42 years old. Not many companies live for 42 years, right?
100%.
And so, but it needs to always feel that it's young. That's the big challenge of big corporates. Young means fast, nimble, amenable to change, want to do new things.
So the way you described Aramex now is the definition of Kristen Clayton's disruptive innovation. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So the way it's cheap, maybe lower quality, but you just it's like a textbook.
I was in the business of finding niches and not competing head on with my big competitors.
Yeah.
I was not stupid. So meaning, I'm gonna go like a bull and compete with DHL. No. I'm gonna find things that DHL don't do, and I'm gonna do them. I'll tell you a big story about Aramex.
Yes.
Aramex was the backbone of e-commerce in the region. Backbone.
Okay.
If Aramex did not exist, maybe somebody else would have come out and built it. But why? Why am I saying Aramex was the backbone? Because Aramex did something that DHL did not do. And that's deliver packages on cash on delivery. We delivered the package and collected the cash. DHL, with the Western mentality, with all due respect, killed that cash on delivery. People pay with credit cards. The Arab world did not use credit cards. Who collected the cash for e-commerce?
Oh, wow. That was a big enabler. It
wouldn't have happened, Osama. I'm being arrogant here. I want to be arrogant.
It's true.
Every e-commerce company in the region that wanted to actually grow needed to have something called cash on delivery because clients
did not have credit cards and
did not want to use credit cards. Still, a big chunk of it is cash on delivery.
No.
And who for 10 years until everybody woke up to it? 10, 15 years when the internet happened, when e-commerce happened, when Souk came out, when all sorts of companies came out. Who we were there to collect the cash.
True.
And they all sat on our shoulders.
100%.
All sat on our shoulders. Why? Because this was a niche.
It was, because it was very relevant here.
We were always thinking strategically, how are we going to build products that the big boys are not in, so that I'm not being head on in competition. It is not about competing. It's about serving a need in the market or creating a need in the market. Right? And solving for it. Shop and ship.
Yes.
It's
massive. I've used it
Shop
more
and Ship
times than I can.
was the first e-commerce platform in the region.
True, 100%.
Aramex made millions and millions of dollars on it. It enabled people to buy globally and get delivered here. And it created a competitive environment locally with the local e-commerce companies, because I'm tapping into Amazon, I'm tapping into all sorts of companies and bringing it over here. It's still operating.
Yes.
It's still worth hundreds of millions of dollars for Aramex. But what was that about? Niche.
True. And local niche.
The big boys did not do it.
Yeah.
Did not do it. They were not going to be able to do it. It required entrepreneurial thinking. It required to say, what am I going to do in my operation in New York, in JFK, to be able to create PO boxes that every single individual that wanted to buy in the region have a local address in the United States of America and then ship it over here. That required an entrepreneurial mind. That it said, I'm not going to wait until I'm going to do a study about it. There was no studies.
Yeah.
We just had people calling us saying, I need to do buying online and I want you to solve it for me. I say, okay, how do I solve it? I used to use my Aramex address in New York because I was the CEO of Aramex, right? I would be able to buy from Amazon and get it delivered to the Aramex New York and they'll say, this is for Fadi, send it to Amman or send it to Dubai, right?
Yes.
And so I said, if I'm able to solve it for myself.
You had shop and ship before it was actually
It was not shop and ship. It was being used concept, casually. Yes. Casually.
Amazing.
And then you sit in that niche and you are king.
So here's a question.
And you are king. Nobody's competing with you. King.
So I'll tell you, Fadi, I'll tell you a question, right? If I want to order now, let's say we want to have lunch and I want to order shawarma from Talabat, right? I can see the guy moving in and I know that he will arrive in 5 minutes. Yeah. Why can't I have the same? Like the other day with Aramex?
It's the same with everyone.
I just got my credit card delivered and the guy missed me 3 days in a row because he said my window is from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m.
I've left Aramex 12 years ago, but I'll tell you what happens. You can't track. There is on the app, you can't track. There's a difference between delivering a hot meal and doing milk run deliveries. Milk run deliveries is how you make money. Is how you make money. Meaning the driver comes and has a route, and in that route, he delivers packages along the way. Banks require you to sign for your document personally.
Yes.
So the guy that was delivering a credit card for you could not have dropped it at your door.
He couldn't, yeah.
Yes. So he required you to be present and he required you to have
the Emirates ID
and the Emirates ID, and they required you to be within his route. So he gives or she gives themselves that range of time so that you fit into that range of time, because that's how Aramex makes money and that's how all other courier companies make money.
Yeah.
The guy that's delivering your shawarma is not making money because it takes, let me give you a sweeping answer about the delivery industry.
Yeah.
For you to make money in the industry, you need to deliver 3 to 4 packages an hour per person.
Okay.
Delivering a hot meal means you deliver one delivery
almost per hour or
per hour.
Yeah.
The economics don't work. Somebody's paying for that hot meal. Somebody's paying for that hot meal because he does nothing else. He goes from point A to point B to deliver your because that's you're the only.
So it's not scalable, you mean, or it's not sustainable.
They all lose money.
So okay.
Somebody pays for it. So I'll tell you who pays for your hot meal. The restaurant does or the.
Yes, I've seen a report about it.
Yeah, because
worldwide.
the delivery driver is not going to be able to make money.
Yes.
delivery industry revolves around density and revolves around utilization of a human being per hour. How much are you using that human being per hour, utilizing for deliveries so that you're able to make money? Those that promise you 1 and 2 hour deliveries, they either need to charge you a premium, and if they're not making money. Somebody else is paying money. Somebody else is paying for it, and most of the time it's either the investors. Somebody has to subsidize it. Anyway, that's a big discussion.
There's a massive research and even a program from last week tonight that actually full hour just talks about this, and it's actually exactly what you said. And the biggest loser is the restaurants. Yes. They go into the details, and you just summarized it. And I
lived it, Osama. 4 to 5 deliveries per hour.
Otherwise, the economies doesn't work.
Economies does not work. This hello. I wanna, this is originally this is an instant gratification that came out of Amazon.
True.
Amazon 1 hour delivery in the United States. They were subsidizing it, but what were they doing? They were building the Amazon brand. They wanted you to be completely hooked on Amazon, and they kept subsidizing the delivery, so that you continue to buy and buy and buy and buy and buy and buy and buy. But eventually, there's the Amazon Prime, so you pay a subscription. Right? Even if you don't use it.
Yes. And then that can pay for the economy.
And then eventually they make money from the products, because Amazon also sells products.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I promise you that we will end at 11. We just touched on talent and culture. I have so many things to ask about the market, to ask about the governance, to ask about this. So how's your time? I
have,
because it's 11 now.
We can go for another 10 minutes.
Okay, so let's dig deeper into the culture then.
10-15 minutes.
10-15 minutes. Okay, so what's your view on so you mentioned the Aramex culture, which I have friends who worked directly with you, who worked at Aramex for the longest period, and that's why I was after you to kind of ask you these questions. And what's your view on the current state of organizational cultures in our region?
It is even more essential today to be a federal organization and a flattened organization because of the communication revolution and the AI revolution that has come out. And organizations are going to be disrupted massively, whether they like it or not. The pressure is on to think very deeply about what type of organizations they want to be. Very deeply. CEOs and senior managers and influencers inside the organization need to think about their specific culture and how they're going to be able to transform it to be in tune with the exponential change that is happening because of technology. There's no escaping it, because the new companies, Osama, are built in. They are exponential first. They don't need to think about exponential. They are in the exponential world. They are digital first. They don't need to think about digital. Bricks and mortar doesn't exist in their life. They don't exist, right? They might be even working from homes. They don't even have a physical space. Even in the old days of Maktub. Maktub was the first real internet company of size in the region.
Yes.
What did Maktub own? 300 engineers working in the back office in Amman and other cities. It owned nothing else. Nothing else mattered. They were producing knowledge and digital knowledge online, right? So, and this is 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. Right? And so culture for us at Aramex was strategic. It was a differentiator. We thought of it as a game changer in how we compete. That's not the internal process affects how you actually recruit, because people want to come to companies that are with amazing cultures so that they come and enjoy their work.
Yes.
Connect with people that they love to work with. come to a company that is a happy company, that's a company that's running, that is getting you to work your butt off, excuse my language. These are the...
Challenge you every day, yes.
Every day, you learn every day. You feel your achievement every day.
Where did this realization come to you? Like, why did you know this from the very beginning?
Because I knew from the very beginning that as I was thinking about the company as it grows, I knew I would never be able to control a company that is going globally while I'm sitting in Amman or Dubai.
How did you know that?
I knew it.
How did you know?
Because I knew my capabilities. It was slipping. How am I going to be able to get the company? How do I get it to have this glue that keeps it together? And the glue that keeps it together was that corporate culture.
So what's the state of the corporate culture in our region for the companies?
I think the region needs a lot of work.
Okay. Can you be more uncensored?
No. I mean, from looking at the new companies, the new startups need to think deeply about culture.
Do they?
As they scale, yeah. So Karim thought from day one about culture.
So you have the outliers, which...
but these are the scale-ups.
Yes. So those are
and Souk thought a lot about culture.
Yes.
The people that scaled.
Yeah.
They think about culture.
They're not the average. They're the outliers.
Yeah. So the old corporates, the old family businesses need to understand that they need to be much more agile and nimble.
So they're not.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they need to get there, and I think they.
What makes
and I think they need to think about it and not bring consultants.
Yes, thank you. Well,
don't bring consultants.
How do you know if you don't know?
You can bring consultants to have a discussion around it, but you have to own the change process.
It's not a training.
You have to own no.
Yeah.
If you don't own it, it's not yours.
That cannot be done for you.
If you don't own it, it's not yours.
Yeah. So it cannot be a done for you service. It has to be a done with you service in case you want to hire someone.
Yeah, consultants, I'm happy to have a deep discussion around it with them. In Aramex, I was known to have an aversion to bringing in consultants to do stuff. Okay. Because consultants come and do the job and go.
Yes.
And they can't implement on your behalf.
But how do you know
if
you don't know?
If consultants are implementing on your behalf, it means you don't have the people. It's a condemnation of the organization, Osama.
Yeah.
It's a condemnation of the organization. You're basically saying, I don't have the talent. I need somebody to come and be the talent on as a hired hand who doesn't necessarily have a loyalty to the organization, because these people parachute and leave.
True.
If you ask them to stay, you either hire them, say, okay, I love this team from consultants, become my own employees and come and do stuff, not as a consultant, as a person else.
So that's why every time someone asks me, Osama, what do you do? I say, oh, you're consulting. It's like, no, it's not consulting. Not because consulting is bad. It's because...
No, I'm not saying consulting is bad.
No, but what I'm trying to say is it's because consulting has this bad rap, has these bad actors that actually did this parachuting, extortion.
They can come in and do diagnostics for you.
Yes. Because you don't know what you don't know.
I don't mind that. Yeah. Come and do diagnostics. Come and have a deep discussion. Change has to happen internally.
So this is my thought process.
And it has to be a collaborative effort all the time.
It cannot be a done for you. So
no, don't outsource it.
You don't outsource it. So diagnostics is very important because again, I keep on saying this, you don't know what you don't know. So how would you know? Like I've had leaders come to me and tell me, you know what, I have a growth problem.
Yeah.
And then when I go and diagnose, it's actually the leader and their leadership style, which is control-oriented, sort of authoritarian, everything has to be centrally approved by him. And when I confronted him with the diagnostics, he actually rejected. It was sort of a megalomaniac, like chair, I am the... So
because they get offended.
Yes. Because culture and leadership are two faces of the same coin, right? So
and I appreciate that. I would, people who are very jealous about their companies will get offended because you're basically saying your organization has a lot of things that need to be changed, which means you haven't been able to.
It's like someone talking about someone's child, right? It's like talking about them.
But the way you need to think about it is, look, the world moves very fast and changes very fast. Organizations are big and slow. I need somebody from the outside to come and tell me what happened in that period, because I'm not able to keep up with the changes.
Yes.
And and you need to have that attitude. If you want to hire consultants, you'd better be serious about deep discussions.
Yes.
And deep questioning of what they tell you.
Yes.
Don't take that as a Bible.
No.
Or as a Quran and says, this is what, if they say it, then it's true. No. Have a very deep discussion. Push back.
Question the assumptions.
And then come with a collaborative conclusion. And then you own it. You own the implementation. You own the change process.
100%.
They are not going to be able to do that for you.
Simply, and I agree with you 100%, Fadi, because again, you wouldn't know what you don't know. And you have to have those pushbacks.
But you know that there's something lacking in the company.
Yes, but how would you? It's like I'll tell you what. So I always say this when someone asks me, okay, so how do you justify being a consultant or selling advice or selling sort of diagnostics?
Right.
I say, okay, I will never come and sell you advice on your own core business. So exactly like Google would never hire a consultant to tell them how to do search. That has to be insourced. Aramex should never hire someone to tell them how to do courier business. It doesn't work that way. But everything else around it. And it shouldn't be.
Because I'll tell you what, I was arrogant enough to, if I would sit in front of a consultant, I would
slaughter them.
Yeah, because I knew much more than they did. I knew much more than they did.
In what?
About my industry.
You have to.
If I did not, I should resign.
Yes.
I should say, thank you very much, I'm leaving.
But that's how it's supposed to be, Fadi. That's how it's supposed to be. If Amazon is in the e-commerce business and someone from outside comes and schools them about e-commerce, then Amazon is obviously doing a bad job.
Yes,
they wouldn't
but if Amazon or Aramex is having challenges in how it actually competes in a certain segment, maybe they need somebody to come and help them, or maybe and highlight and says what's most important about consultants is to tell you what others are doing.
For example, yes.
What
do some sort of a benchmark.
Doing?
Yes.
What is people, not necessarily only in your industry, in other industries that might have faced similar problems, this is where I need the learning. I need to know what's happening out there that the consultants will give me insight. And he says, your organization looks this way, others have solved it this way. Why don't you think about that? Why, or give me 2 or 3 different case studies about how others have done it, and then have a deep discussion about where we are so that we can go out and solve for whatever challenges we have.
Powerful questions that questions assumptions.
Poke all the time.
And
there
both ways.
Needs to be dissension.
Yes.
There needs to be questioning all the time. All the time. The questioning process is what gets you to a much better conclusion to where you are.
Exactly. And
don't think they're smarter than you are. And don't let them think that they are smarter than you are. And that's where the challenge is. Because if they come in, they should never come with an arrogant position and says,
this is how you sit on a high tower and say, this is how
unless you are really a person that doesn't listen. And so they need to hammer you on the head and say, listen, your organization has problems, has very serious problems. You hired us. Here's what we came up with. The rest is up to you.
Does arrogance have a
cure? No, arrogance has a cure. People that are arrogant and don't accept change will lose their jobs.
Yeah. Fadi, I really want to continue with you. There's lots and lots and lots, but I really respect your time.
We can do one every year.
Okay. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Osama. I enjoyed it a lot.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.